Welcome to Discover Energy Work. Today, I have a very special guest. I have Daniel Reid, international best-selling author of things that I find amazingly interesting. So I'm really excited to have you on the show today, Daniel. How are you?
I'm okay. It's a bit hot, but I'm getting used to it.
Yeah, it is hot. But we are like separated by like 6 or 7 kilometers, but Zoom makes it so easy to just record a show and everything. But
And we have the great pleasure of having a COVID shutdown in Chiang Mai. My goodness.
right, yeah, it's kind of new for us because we never. Well, I didn't experience it quite as well. It seems like I didn't experience it so badly, but yeah. Anyway, um, you're in Chiang Mai. I think it's fair to say you've got an incredible background, incredible story. Discover Energy Works all about the story. You've devoted your life to, or a lot of your life, I don't know, the whole of your life, but you've devoted a lot of your life to Tao and to explaining these ancient ideas. What got you there? What happened? Did you have some sort of experience that blew your mind, or?
Did you get me interested in China or in the Tao?
I could say like the Tao would probably be more important for me, but I'm okay for you
Yeah, well,
people are interested.
Taiwan. Well, going to Taiwan. I studied Chinese. I got a master's degree in Chinese. And I originally wanted to go to China, but it was the middle of the Cultural Revolution, which I wasn't even aware of. And so my teacher said, well, never mind that. Come to Taiwan. That's the real China. So I went with him and I stayed 16 years. And well, various things. One thing led to another. A sports injury got me, someone took me to see a Chinese doctor and I liked what he was doing. So I studied with him for a while and wrote a book about it. Qigong, again, I just met people who were practicing Qigong. I took a few classes, but mainly most of the stuff I learned there about Taoism and Taoist practice were through personal friends.
Right. So something.
And then I'd practice myself and see how it works. And then like people would, editors would come along from Hong Kong or something and say, oh, I want a book about this or that. And it was always related. So sort of got off the ground like that.
But was there, I suppose I'm curious to try and see if there was this, these certain experiences you had said, yeah, I'm on the right track. This is, I mean, if I relate to my experience when I was in Sichuan, I couldn't believe what this guy was doing with energy. This Tai Chi master, Taoist master, and I thought, okay, I kind of challenged him. He says he all of his students can learn to feel energy within a few days, and I kind of challenge him. I don't believe that, and then within 3 or 4 days, I was feeling energy, and I'm like, whoa, okay, so I need to review how I see the world. Did you have anything?
Yeah, well, I guess for me, it was fixing up that sports injury basically overnight. It was.
What happened? What was the injury? Tell us.
I was playing racquetball and took a long swing and wrenched my back out. Couldn't stand up straight. I've had that injury before, and I knew I was in for 2 weeks of discomfort and inability to stand up straight. And this guy said, "Oh, you'll be okay tomorrow." It was Tui Na he used, the Tui Na press and rub technique, which I think is one of the best things in TCM. And it's also one of the least known. But and then he had his own herbal poultice that he put on my back. And well, the next morning, I just jumped out of bed. I didn't even remember I had this thing on my back, and then suddenly remembered, wow, I was injured yesterday and now I'm fine. And that impressed me. So I sort of made myself his apprentice for a while, informal.
Right.
That's how I learned about it. And I think the other thing about Taoism, I mean, another friend introduced me to Qigong practice and took me to his class with him. And then I could see that, including Chinese cooking, painting, calligraphy, they all boil down to the same basic principles: the yin and the yang, balance and harmony, the 5 elements, the basic principles. It wasn't just a matter of theory, but it ran through everything in traditional Chinese culture. And so that just made me all the more interested. And I started looking into different aspects of Chinese culture and trying to delineate where those principles show up in the art of tea and in cooking, of course, Qigong, Chinese medicine, stuff like that. And then I started writing about it.
Right. You're one of these people, and forgive me if I don't manage to express this well, but you've experienced so many different things. Kind of my fear was we're going to talk about a lot of things and nothing, because you've got this really, really big experience of so many areas, and it's sometimes it's difficult to get to the essence because there's so many things around it. I remember just going back to an experience I had sitting with you and Snow at your home drinking tea and feeling so great about there's a certain, I'll say, like a Tao of the tea as well. And
yeah, I call it Qigong.
Qigong, I like that. So have you got
all my teachers, I used to drink coffee, like, strong coffee, hand ground in the morning and all that. I didn't pay much attention to the tea, but then it turned out that all the people I was studying with, the Qigong teachers and the doctors, they were all drinking this tea, high mountain oolong tea, grown in Taiwan. And I read a book by John Blowfail, The Chinese Art of Tea, and I met him actually shortly before his death in Bangkok. And that book impressed me enough to go down and buy a teapot and some tea, and I've been drinking tea every day ever since. And it's a remarkable, I mean, when you get the right kind of tea, which I think is the high mountain oolong from Taiwan, it has remarkable health benefits, besides tasting really good. And I mean, it wakes me up in the morning, it activates the nervous system, gets your circulation going, it slightly alkalizes your bloodstream, which is a positive state to be in. And of course, there's all the little teapots and the cups, the tray, it just goes on and on. The Chinese make an art of just about everything in life.
Yeah. I mean, it's I feel a little bit as well, like just the whole process of making the tea, that it's almost an enigmatic tea ceremony. You wouldn't know it was there. It's not like the Japanese tea ceremony where you're in the tea ceremony. Like the Chinese there's a ritual to it, and it draws you in, but it's almost like a ritual of no ritual. It's very Zen, if you know what I mean.
Well, people call it the tea ceremony. That's not what the Chinese call it. They call it chai. They call it the art of tea. And whereas in the Japanese tea ceremony, it's extremely formal, and the tea itself is sort of a secondary thing. If you like raw green tea, whisked up in a cup and all that, but that's not really, the point is not the tea itself, but making all the observances, and you can't talk, you can't speak. But the Chinese art of tea is just the art of making a really good cup of tea. And meanwhile, you're free to talk and interact with anybody at the tea table and spill a bit here and there. That's why there's always a tray, a slotted tray to catch the runoff water. So it's very practical and enjoyable. I mean, it's like Chinese food. The way the Chinese cook food and the ingredients and all that, it's basically a very healthy diet. But then again, they apply all these principles, you know, the yin and the yang and the harmony of the five elemental energies then manifest as the 5 flavors.
Right.
Salt, sugar, whatever. And they bring that in, again, to turn it into an art, so that the cooking becomes a high art that's based on the Taoist principles. And the tea, the art of tea is the same way. The way it's made, the timing, the taste. So there again, it's a combination of form and function. The form is always very important to the Chinese because they like things, they're a very visual people. And I think Westerners are more auditory.
Okay.
Yeah, Western music, classical music, but you've heard Chinese opera music. It's one of the noisiest. It's like a din, really, but they're really into visual balance, and so everything is just nicely set up that you can just make a cup of tea. But no, they want to have beautiful pots made by famous potters with clay from a particular mountain. And then the tray is made out of beautiful bamboo and not just a plastic tray, things like that. And yet the tea itself is important. Maybe unlike in the Japanese tea ceremony, the tea itself and the taste of it is not the main thing, it's the ritual. But the Chinese have a very specific way of growing tea and drying it, and fertilizing it properly, picking it by hand so none of the tea leaves are broken. So it's all part of an art that has, I think, 2 pairs of words I would put into it that kind of run through all these Chinese arts of life are balance and harmony. Things have to be in balance and in harmony, and health and longevity. They should enhance your health and prolong your life.
It's yeah, it is special. It's lovely to hear you talk about it. I know you've written. I mean, you know, it's typical me. I feel like you've touched on the John Blowfail connection, which is kind of amazing that you guys met, because it's almost like, you know, you take on a mantle from John Blowfail, which people probably don't know. John Blowfail was an extremely he was a scholar of Taoism. Is it fair to say that?
Taoism and Buddhism. He actually practiced Tibetan Buddhism. His main teachers were Tibetans, but he spent 18 years in China before the Communist Revolution. He had to leave in 1949 or 48, much to his grief. And he ended up in Bangkok. I always figured he'd gone back to England and become a professor at Cambridge or something. But all this time he'd been living in Bangkok for 35 years. And when I found that out, I wrote him a letter and introduced myself and said how much his books were instrumental in introducing me to Taoism and Buddhism. He was quite a prolific writer. So he invited me to come see him. So I went there. I stayed in Bangkok for, a month or 2. And he had cancer then. And so I'd go over in the afternoon and we drank tea and talked. He had a beautiful Thai house. And after his death, I moved to Bangkok then, and his daughter, his adopted Thai daughter, offered to let me live in that house. nobody in the family wanted to be up there after he died. So they had his ashes up there because they were trying to find a temple that would accept a foreigner's ashes. And they finally did find one, but for about a year, it was up there. But, you know, that didn't bother me. I slept in his bed. I wrote at his desk.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. It's like a mantle. Like when I heard that, I was like, wow, for me, you know, like maybe thinking of it as like a, you know, there's certain synchronicities in life, and you meeting him and then being offered his house and living in his house and feeling comfortable is kind of, says, all good, you know.
He was a scholar for sure. And then he wrote about what he'd learned and everything. I'm more interested in the more practical things like Qigong and Chinese medicine. He didn't write books on that sort of thing. But he had a lot of fans around the world.
Yes, I bought one of his books.
Mourned his passing. But when I met him, he was writing his memoir in Chinese about his life in China. And trying to get it done because he had serious cancer. And I actually introduced him to a pharmaceutical neuro enhancer that overcame the problems he was having writing because of the chemotherapy he was taking. So that really got him going again. And a friend of his in Hong Kong, it was being serialized in a Hong Kong newspaper, his memoirs, but then it was published in Chinese and I got the English translation rights.
Oh, wow.
And so it came out years later because I couldn't find a publisher interested enough to sign a contract. So I just kind of let it go for a while. But in 2006, I did. This is long after he died, almost 20 years.
Yeah.
And it was published. So suddenly there was a new book on the market by John Blowfail, and it was actually his memoirs.
Wow. I think
very interesting book.
Well, you know, I feel like, you know, there's two things. I think there's a fascination which I think we probably both share for the Taoist philosophy, these wonderful, like this wonderful system that seems to sort of be applicable to everything from tea to how you build a house to how the body is structured. It's like, oh wow, how that is so simple, and it's not even, it's saying, oh, we only need to return to our nature, to who we really are. It's even like a really simple message behind there. And then there's the busy people of the world who kind of want to hear like something fast and applicable. So the idea was like to give them stories. That was the idea. It's like, okay, well, I had this, like you're saying, like I had this problem. You really need to spend 2 weeks solving it or 4 weeks solving it. The next day it's gone, and it's because somebody worked on the energy flow using the skills in their hands. It's like, that is unreal. Yeah, that just doesn't happen. And
they apply to everything. There's the energy meridians of the planet. So you got Feng Shui, and you know, any Chinese person building a building or a house will always have a Feng Shui master come in to see where the lines are running. They're gonna definitely want to set up their house in a way that the main door is facing the right direction to take advantage of how the energy is flowing, which is different every place. And so it's like a healthy geomancy, a healthy way to build your house and to lay out your house for maximum benefit.
Have you got any stories of Feng Shui from your experience, or even these stories where you heard like there's stories in Hong Kong of how they had to build holes in the building so that the dragon go through the holes.
And pots of water to pick up the energy from certain things. And also, like in Taiwan, people who overlooked all that, and just because they had a piece of property on a busy intersection, built an office building there, totally ignoring all feng shui principles. And then a few offices opened there, a few companies, they went broke right away. And then they looked into the feng shui and they said, oh my God, this thing is totally off kilter. And then the building just was left empty. The word spread and nobody would rent a, it stood there for about 10, 12 years. But finally somebody bought it and knocked it down, put up a building proper. When we were living in Australia, when we went there, we found a piece of land to build a house on, and Snow knows a bit about feng shui, and it had a perfect flow of energy going from the mountain behind it all the way down right to the ocean below.
Wow.
And it was very, very well set up. So we bought that piece of land and built a house on it.
Yeah. And again, that's one of these things where, you know, when I'd experienced the energy work, I thought I was going to be coming back to Hong Kong, and although it seems like everybody at a certain age, they know about energy. Everybody knew a little bit about feng shui. Everybody knew a little bit about, like, if you've eaten hot, then that's you've eaten too much hot. You're going to now start eating cool things, and now it's almost like you say qi, and they don't know actually what is qi. They don't know what is.
Well, energy is the one thing that's really not recognized in Western civilization, not in terms of human health. And you know, you've got your physical self, and you go see the surgeon, or you take pharmaceutical drugs or whatever to fix the body, and then you got something wrong with your mind, or you go see the psychiatrist. But there's a bridge between the physical and the mental or spiritual, and that's energy. So it runs through both. And you know, even quantum physics has shown that it really is nothing that's ultimately solid anyway. You keep looking closer and closer and closer down to subatomic particles, eventually they just disappear and become waves. So the energy is a very real thing. The energy is far more real than solid form. Solid form is an illusion. Our eyes see energy. It's really light that's slowed down to the point where we take it to be a solid material. And but in actual scientific fact, there is no such thing as a solid thing. It's all energy just condensed. Right. To a point where it seems solid when you touch it with your fingers. It looks solid, but it's actually not. It's energy.
Right. It's and in fact, I was reading this week, they've discovered a fifth fundamental like particle. They haven't found it. They've just found it's there. So I forgot, like muons or something. They're particles that weren't behaving the way they thought they should behave.
Energy often does not behave the way it should.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm loving it. And I love it because I always say science is about the mystery, not about knowing things. So when people tell me they definitely know something, I say, well, it probably doesn't sound very scientific to me. Like, science is the mystery. And actually, that's why I bring them together. I said, like, Taoism energy is the mystery. You know, we don't know everything, but we can connect to it. We can just
we can manipulate it and control it. I mean, because energy responds to intent and actually influence the way energy moves in your body and functions with focused intent. That's also been shown to be true by quantum physics, because they have the observer with this high-tech device in which you can see the subatomic particles dissolving into energy waves. And with intent, the observer can then make it reappear over here or over there. And now it looks like a particle again. And then, oops, now it becomes a wave again. And you can alternate it with mind.
Right, right. You're talking about, for people that might not know, I think you're talking about the double slit experiment and how it can appear, depending on whether you're looking at it, it appears as a wave or as a particle. And it's like,
exactly.
That's totally interesting, and it's a mystery. We don't really understand it, and yeah, I think that's kind of cool. Have you got any stories about intent where or energies shifted something? People? I'm sorry, putting you on the spot off the top of your head.
no, but I've had some friends in Taiwan who were working with energy in medicine. Yeah. And they would be working on a certain part of your body, which seemed to be sort of distant from where the symptom was.
Right.
Maybe you had a headache or something wrong with your chest or something, and they're down there working on your feet or on your arm or something. And what they're really doing is getting energy flowing, opening up blocked channels. And then then suddenly you feel better and then, okay, you got the chi. And so as far as intent goes, when a doctor like that is working with energy and on acupressure points and all that, it's not just a matter of manipulation, but he has to also channel in his intent to have it behave in a certain way, to go to a certain part of the body and to heal. So the intent behind healing, and I think it's true with calligraphy too. And I've heard tell about tea masters who make their tea and there's an intention to make that tea help you or taste a certain way, and it comes out through the fingers. They're handling the clay pot, which is the natural material, and it goes on and on. The water is from a river. It's got no chemicals in it, and everything just harmonizes.
Right.
So I haven't seen people levitate with intent or anything, not yet anyway. But I know that the intent, the word for intent in Chinese, yi, is my favorite ideogram, the written form.
Oh, tell me, yeah, share. I mean, I know it's for me, and I'm going to say it's stand, heart, sun, heart. Yeah.
Yeah, but sun is in there, but actually, I think that's mouth.
Yes.
Or to speak.
Yes.
Which looks like the sun radical, but it's that whole top part, which means sound. Sound or music or vibration.
Oh, I love
sound
it.
is a vibration. And then what's underneath there is the heart.
Vibration of the heart.
Which is also the word for mind, the sound of the heart. Or a vibration in the mind.
Thank you. I got a cold shower. That's beautiful.
Yeah. That's a fantastic one. And so it's really saying is your intent, the real intent comes from the heart as a vibration. And so, of course, people who are very sensitive to energy and stuff can actually tell when someone's trying to deceive them. Because what they're saying, which is coming from the head, is not the same as the vibe they're putting out in their heart. And so people are paying attention to. And Snow is pretty good at that. And I can't tell you how many times I was sitting with somebody and speaking English, and she'll just say in Chinese, there's something wrong here, that the vibe's not right. I don't think this guy's telling you the truth or something like that, because the words are from your human consciousness, from the ego. To try to have a purpose, an ulterior motive or something, but you can't cover the vibration in the heart. It's just that most people don't even have the idea that there's an intent that's just broadcasting out from a person's heart that tells the whole story. And unless you can tune into that, then you wouldn't know it. But it's just significant to me that that's the word, that the way they construct the character for intent. And I mean, there's so much wisdom in Chinese, in the Chinese language, in the written language specifically, because it's all, they're pictures, and they're ideas that come together in a graphic form.
Right.
For a reason.
Well, you know, you were saying the Chinese are more visual, and literally, you know, the writings, they're ideograms. They're not.
Yeah.
They're not
Ideograms.
Ideograms. Mm. Yeah. So that really fits with me, and I love the idea. Also, I like the idea. You know, they say energy follows the sound of the heart. That's already like sounds amazing. But I also like the idea of I met my teacher one day, and I went to meet him at the at the railway station. He was coming in from München, and I was waiting at Karlsruhe in the main railway station, the Hauptbahnhof, and I walked up and down the platform, and I just stopped. And then the train stopped, the door opened, and I was standing where his carriage was, where his seat was, like the door opened to me. And he said, Tian Yi. He said, that is, Tian is heaven. I'm explaining not for you, for our listeners. A heaven in the intent of heaven, that I would stand there where he's, you know, where he's alive.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's exactly right. Yes.
And so how do you, but I've been fascinated, like, okay, so I understand humans have intention. So how do you say, as a Taoist, how do you put your turn on that turn of phrase? Like,
well, I think the idea is to follow your heart more than your head. The heart is the word, the same character they use from the word mind. But what they're really talking about is your higher mind, your spirit. The light is there, and up here, the head is the realm of the ego, or the human mind. What's in your heart, and when they refer to the light or something like that, that is the immortal part of you, and but very few people pay any attention to that, or even have the concept of such a thing. And so that people work from their head. But you know, it's not only that people deceive others with devious intentions and all that. Most of all, they deceive themselves. So they get themselves. The ego is always, and the ego is also just when you die, your ego just disappears. It's something you take on when in childhood, and through programming and socialization and all that. And the ego tends to take over your life. It commandeers your energy. It has you doing all kinds of things you're probably better off not doing. And people just don't pay much attention to the subtle sound or vibration that's coming from their higher self, or what we refer to as the heart. So I think that's basically the whole idea behind spirituality. That's not nearly the same. That's not the same thing as religion.
Yeah, it's
in religion. Most religions, there seems to be like you don't have any connection with, quote, God or the great spirit or anything like that. You need an intermediary, you need a priest and all that, and to tell you what to do and how to do it. But in the Taoist and Buddhist traditions, everybody has it. And it's just a matter of waking up to what you already have, and that what's already within your field. That's very different from following orders from a scripture or from someone who says, well, I've been ordained to represent whichever God happens to be the one in that religion. So spirituality is a far more personal thing.
It's interesting to talk about Tao from a spiritual point of view, because I think in some ways, I think people are with the current crisis with the pandemic, people are looking outside the realms of what they thought they were. You know, that there needs to be more meaning. Yeah, they have there's purpose to their life, but do they have meaning? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Tao, I always feel like it's beyond spirituality. It's bigger than spirituality. It's enormous, and yet it will always go where it's needed. And I think, you know, most people, when they meet the Tao, they often meet spirituality because that's kind of what they needed. Do you agree, or do you see it differently?
Yeah, well, the Tao is just the Taoist form of spirituality, the ancient Chinese. I mean, again, just look at the word. What does the Tao mean? It means the way. It also means path. So the path or the way. When Lao Tzu was penning the Tao Te Ching and trying to describe it, he said, I don't know what to call this thing that I'm talking about. So he basically said, he nicknamed it the Tao, the way, because it's the way everything works. There's only one way. And so then you say, all right, well, what do you mean by that? Can you give me an example? And of course, nature. On this planet, in this world, if you want to know what the Tao is, how things really work, well, go out and observe nature, the birds and the bees, the trees and the flowers, and how everything works. And that's very applicable now to what's happening, because the approach people are taking to this so-called pandemic is all just pharmaceutical, using chemicals and all kinds of things that have nothing to do with nature. Well, if you want to follow nature, get healthy, get a strong immune response. That's how trees survive. That's how bees survive. And you know, by speaking of bees, there's so many bees colonies dropping dead now. That's certainly not the way. That's not nature. Well, so there's different theories about it. Some think it's glyphosate, pesticide. Others say it's 5G vibration. It's too high level for them. And it's giving, basically, the bees are getting the equivalent of dementia. And they can't find their way back to the hive. Okay. So, okay. But that principle, as it applies to the bees and the birds and the trees and all that, you can just take it further, and it applies to us as well, because we're part of nature. We've got physical bodies, and the interference with nature is what the problem is. And if you want to get back to the Tao in a practical way, with anything, food, you know, grow the food with natural fertilizer, let the rain come down without chemicals from the chemtrails in it, and it'll be healthy. Most food today is not healthy.
Right, I know you've done a lot of work on food, and I mean, like, you've done a lot of work on a lot of different areas, which makes you like hopefully a comeback guest. But you've done a lot of work on food and how the body detoxes in a really natural way.
Fasting.
So fasting is not eating anything, or what does fasting mean?
It doesn't necessarily, well, it is not eating anything for some period of time. There's what's very popular now is intermittent fasting, which is basically just keeping an 8-hour window in the day when you have all your eating done. Okay. Or a 6-hour window, however you want to take it. If it's an 8-hour window, okay, for 16 hours, you don't eat. I mean, what the word breakfast, what does that mean?
Yeah,
Break, fast.
Yeah, right.
What fast? You were sleeping. You were in bed, you had dinner, and then you read for a while and you went to bed. It's been 12 hours before you get up and have your breakfast. That's your breaking a fast. Now, extend it for a few more hours and you start getting a detox function, which kicks in after about, well, it starts after about 12 hours, but more like if you go up 16 hours without eating, all those detox pathways of the body expelling toxins and cleaning the cellular fluids and all that, and the blood coming back into balance, that begins to take place. And then you eat and then you do it again. So that's intermittent. But a longer fast, the longer you fast, the more things happen. You start to remove heavy metals from your brain, and, all kinds of stuff begins to happen, and things, your system gets back into balance, into natural balance.
Yeah.
So, okay. Food, eating. There's another thing about that is food combining. Certain foods have a harmful effect if they're eaten in the wrong combination, like starches and animal proteins. Fruit is something that is so pure and mostly water that it actually doesn't need to be digested in your stomach. It's designed to go right through your stomach into your duodenum, where it starts to absorb. But if you've got a steak down there, or fried potatoes, or whatever, then the fruit has to stand in line. It's waiting for that to pass, which is going to be 2 or 3 hours at least. And what does chewed up fruit with enzymes in it from your mouth do? It ferments. It ferments, and then everything in your stomach ferments. And the ever-present bacteria get all the nutrients, and you get all the waste.
Right, and you get drunk.
Yeah, well, you could, but you get a lot of acid waste and toxic substances.
Right.
Food combining is actually quite important. It can get very, very into very detailed levels, but there's maybe 3 or 4 basic principles you follow, you'd be all right. So, no matter how healthy the food you're eating is, if you're eating something that's basically incompatible from the point of view of digestion, then you're not going to digest any of it properly, and you're not going to get any nutrients from it. So humans are basically omnivores. People say, oh, well, humans should be vegan, vegetarian, because we've got a long digestive tract like the apes. But humans have been through several long ice ages. And in an ice age, there are no plants. There's only animals. You got to bring down a mammoth elephant, or hunt a bear down or something, and then you eat the meat and the fat. And those humans who didn't have the digestive capacity for that just died off. So we've developed this sort of digestive system where we have hydrochloric acid in our stomach. I mean, it's really acidic. That acid is very strong, and it's meant to break down meat, eggs, any kind of fat. So that's required for that. But if you put in, then you're eating noodles and bread, carbohydrates and sweets at the same time, which require a completely different kind of digestive juice, then neither one digests properly.
Right.
So these are important principles for a healthy diet. It's not just a matter of eating healthy foods, organic foods. It's how you combine them. And then again, having a space of time between meals.
Right.
And the longer, the better. Because I mean, human beings, again, look at nature. Look at how animals live and all. They spend time finding their food. And then bringing it back to the cave or back to the nest or whatever it is, and then they eat, but they're not eating all day long as people do today.
True. And, you know, I also feel like the Germans have an expression, they say, Dreck ist gesund, which means dirt is healthy. And I think
well, that's
we're also like so ridiculously over hygienic that we're getting away from getting some crap inside us, so that our body's reacting to it, even taking good things out of the crap. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure, of course. And I mean, your body immune response depends entirely on keeping it challenged. It doesn't have to be COVID or some tuberculosis or something serious like that. It's just the daily, the dirt. Kids who play in the dirt, you get their hands dirty and all that, they basically are healthier.
Yes, yes. Daniel, it's brilliant. The time's just run away from us.
Time tends to do that.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? It's great. I mean, there's more stories than I mean, wonderful information and stories. I love it. You've written a lot of books. Where can people find your books if they want to find them online? You've got you've obviously.
Well, you can find them on Amazon.com or something, or from the publisher. But on my website, there is a section on books, and if you open that section, my books are all. You just scroll down to, you'll find them all, and there's a link for ordering, and sometimes it goes to the publisher and sometimes it goes to Amazon.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for coming. I'm sure this is going to be a really popular episode. I mean, really, I think you honor me with just coming on. I think sure many more people are going to come on than normal for my humble little podcast. But so thank you so much. I'm very, very.
Oh, you're quite welcome. I mean, after all, here we are in Chiang Mai. We're not supposed to go out. I don't like wearing these masks, so I basically just stay in the house.
Right. Well, I'm going to sign off now, and I will wish everybody a lovely day, whatever you're doing, and check out Discover Energy Work. We got new things happening. I've got ESP Energy Strengthening Program being released if it's not out already. So check that out. That's a video course coming up. And please check out Daniel's books. He's got books on, I won't say everything, but he's got if you're interested in energy work, you should definitely check out his books. Thank you so much.